Okay, we'll start now. Thanks everyone for coming and listening. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to read today. We're going to cover halachot of the 30 weeks. We talked last week about the week period between the 17th of Tammuz to Tisha B'Av. We spoke how it increasingly gets a little stricter. So right now we're in the midst of the 3 weeks, but in the most lenient part. So right now, we said we can't listen to music, we can't dance, but we're going to see on Friday, without Hashem, it's going to be the Rosh Chodesh. So starting not Friday, because we said the Rosh Chodesh itself, no, and then also Shabbat, no, but starting Sunday, we said no more meat and no more wine during the week.
After this Shabbat.
After Shabbat, yeah, after this Shabbat. So the whole week of next week. During the week, not during Shabbat. So starting Sunday, no meat, no wine, of course, no grape juice either. Of course, no music, no dancing. We said try not to purchase anything new during the whole week. So we said that you can't say Shechianu, so you can't, wear new clothes. This year it's a little easier since there's no week of. We're going to see some halachot today of the week of Shavuot. This year there's for Sfardis there's no week of, and we'll talk about that more. But also it's forbidden to cut one's hair and shave next week. So starting Sunday until after Tisha B'Av, so until Monday, so until the following Monday, which is what, August something. There's no more cutting and shaving of the hair for men. Women are still allowed to get haircuts. And then we said, so we have so then we had a bunch of halachot of the week of Shavuot. So let's say of Tisha B'Av. So if Tisha B'Av was on Thursday, for example, and then you have from Sunday until Thursday, there are some halachot. I'm not going to get into that too much just because this year we don't have that. This year it's technically Tisha B'Av is on Shabbat, so it gets pushed off to Sunday. And so we don't have it's called the week of Tisha B'Av. We don't have that week of this year. So one thing that we see on Tisha B'Av is the day before Tisha B'Av. We'll see on Tisha B'Av itself, we're very limited onto what we're allowed to read, Jewish-wise. We can't just take any book and read it like we usually do or study it like we usually do. So the day before, though, there's no issue with studying. You can definitely study whatever you need or read whatever you need. Of course, we're talking in a Jewish manner. So if there's if they say the day before Tisha B'Av, you shouldn't go to like a shopping mall or a park where there's a lot of people, because we're not trying to get ourselves, happy or elevated. We're trying to maintain this mourning vibe. So usually the final meal of before Tisha B'Av is also very limited. This year it's not going to be that way because this year, and we're going to see it because this year Tisha B'Av is Shabbat, so the fast is the day after Sunday. So the last meal would be the third meal on Shabbat, and we don't limit ourselves on Shabbat.
Not the meal before the Havdalah, right?
The meal before Havdalah. We're going to see what time that actually is because once we'll see. But in a normal year where the 8th of Av isn't on Shabbat, or the 9th of Av isn't on Shabbat, and we don't push it off, we're not allowed to eat certain things. So of course, no meat and wine, like we said. Of course, if it's a fake meat, they have those fake burgers, that's allowed. We also, specifically for the last meal before Shabbat, before Tisha B'Av, we say no fish. We said the week of, next week, you can't eat fish. We said meat and wine is no, chicken no, but fish yes. So if someone wants to eat fish next week, he can.
What about dairy, cheese?
Dairy, cheese, that's all permitted. Just meat and wine, they say it makes a person happy. Also with chicken. Chicken is also, I guess, a subset of meat. But for the final meal in a normal year, or one that isn't Shabbat, then fish would also not be allowed. Also for the last meal before Tisha B'Av, usually you're only allowed to have one cooked food. So let's say I'm going to eat rice and fish. I can't have that. I can either have rice or I can have fish. Or I guess we said we can't have fish. So I guess they're going to give here an example. So for example, rice and broccoli, right?
Yeah.
So rice and broccoli, they're two different cooked foods. So I wouldn't be able to eat those normally before the fast of Tisha B'Av. We're specifically talking about Tisha B'Av. So usually, before a normal fast, not talking about Tisha B'Av, you can eat whatever you really want. The one before Tisha B'Av is strict that you can only have one cooked food, and that's only in a year where it's not being pushed off or it's not Shabbat the day before. So this year it's different. We're going to see all these halachot we're going to read today. They're not going to be as applicable this year, but they are applicable maybe in future years if we don't have the building of the Beit HaMikdash. So let's say someone has a hard-boiled egg and a soft-boiled egg. These are considered two separate cooked foods, and one may not be able to eat them. Even though that they're the same food and they're both cooked, one's cooked different than the other, and so they're technically considered two different I guess cooked foods. Same thing if it's hard-boiled egg and scrambled egg. Those are two different cooked foods. Baked goods are not considered cooked. So if one wants to eat different types of cakes or breads, that's permissible. So if he wants to eat like garlic bread and then he wants to eat a muffin, that's allowed. Some have the custom to eat cooked lentils or hard-boiled egg during the final meal because those are usually foods that are given to mourners. And again, we're trying to instill this sad mood going into Tisha B'Av because we still don't have the Beit HaMikdash. Even if two foods are cooked together in one pot, one should not eat both foods during the final meal unless this is the normal way to eat these foods all year long. So if someone cooks peas with onions and eggs, kind of like scrambled eggs and with all of that, then if that's common in the location to eat it like that, then that would be fine. But if it's something that's maybe you like it, then those are two different kind of cooked foods and you wouldn't be able to eat it.
Is it the same with let's say rice and lentils are cooked together in a pot?
So yeah, if it's usually eaten that way, if you usually eat rice and lentils together like that, then it would be permissible. But if it's something that you don't do and you're doing it specifically, or you're doing it, you do it once in a while, then it would be forbidden. So a cheese-filled calzone, or like a cheese-filled bareka, in places where the custom is to eat them year long, it's permissible. But one should not eat these pancakes for pleasure. Let's say it's something that he likes very much and it's very tasty to him. On a normal year, better to refrain from that because it's not something you don't eat pizza at a mourner's house. So the day before mourning, you don't want to start eating pizza, even though it's permissible. It's not in the spirit of things. One may eat any number of fresh fruits at this meal. So let's say you want cherries, apples, bananas. You can eat all of that. There's no problem. the problem becomes with cooked fruit or cooked vegetables. Then it becomes a matter of cooked. So now let's say you're going to eat a salad, right? A salad has a bunch of different things. So one may eat a tossed salad of fresh vegetables with a dressing and still eat another cooked food besides the salad, because nothing in the salad is really cooked, including the dressing, even though it might be cooked, it's not considered like a cooked food. So you can eat a salad with, let's say, lentils. It is permissible to mix cheese and noodles and eat them at this meal. So let's say someone wants to have macaroni and cheese or some kind of pasta with cheese. That's fine. Cheese is equal to a raw fruit in this regard. So even though cheese and pasta might be two different cooked foods, we say cheese is like raw fruit, and it's permissible. Coffee and tea, it's permissible. As long as it's within the meal. Once he does birkat hamazon, he cannot drink that anymore. Same thing. You should refrain from drinking beer or any alcoholic beverages at this meal. It's not really, except again, all of these are for a regular year. This year is a little different, and we'll get to that in a second. And then after completing the final meal before the fast, if someone is not thirsty, but he wishes to drink more water so that he can not feel thirsty during the fast, he must not recite any blessing over the water. So if you don't feel thirsty, you never have to say, and you're just drinking to hydrate yourself or make sure you're not thirsty later on, you don't have to say a blessing. You're allowed to drink the water. You do not have to say a Borei Nefashot afterwards also. So you don't have to say after blessing also. So drinking water after the final meal is permissible, as long as you're doing it to hydrate yourself. The custom on a normal year would be to eat the final meal on the ground. Again, we want to kind of get ourselves in the mood of being mourners. And you want to sit on the ground. Of course, you don't want to sit directly on the ground. You want to put some kind of carpet or some kind of blanket, so you're not sitting directly on the ground. Technically, tiled floor is also considered a separation from the ground. The same thing. We say even women should sit on the floor for this meal, and they should place a cloth even on the tiled floor. And for this meal on a normal year, you would want to make sure that you're not eating in groups. You don't start inviting friends over and eating it together, because when you have friends over and everything, then you start getting happy even when you're trying not to be happy. And all of these rules were specifically for the final meal, which has to happen after midday. If you want to make your final meal before midday, I don't know why you'd want to do almost a 36-hour fast, but if you want to do that, if you want to bring it in, then none of these rules really apply. Because we say that only from the half point, midday and onward, into that last day right before Tisha B'Av, then we start getting ourselves more into that spirit of sadness. But before that, there's no real.
Middays around 1:30.
1:30 nowadays. It's 1:30. Yeah, 1:20 something. Yeah, but of course, this year none of this applies, because on the year when the 9th of Av is Shabbat, like this year, or when the 9th of Av is on Sunday, it is permissible to eat meat and drink wine during the final meal, because it's the third meal of Shabbat, and the Talmud says that on Shabbat you should eat the meal like it's a meal at King Solomon's feast. We can't even hold ourselves back a little bit, and try to make ourselves feel sad a little bit, because it's Shabbat, and because it's a time of exceedingly happiness. We're so close to Hashem. We don't take any of these restrictions into consideration. People can invite people over. They can sit on chairs. They can eat meat and wine, cooked foods, but you have to make sure that you cease eating a minute or two before sunset. So I think the sunset nowadays is 8:23. So let's see exactly this Shabbat. I'll give you the exact time. So you want to make sure that you're finishing here, right here. So sunset is 8:27. 8:27. So you want to make sure you finish eating by 8:25. So 8:25, no eating and drinking, and that's on Shabbat. So you have to make sure that on Shabbat you start the fast, but you want to make sure that you finish eating and drinking the third meal before that time. Yeah. But you can do Birkat Hamazon after that time. So even though you're finished eating and drinking, you can do the final blessing after that. Yeah, as long as they don't do Havdalah. And we're going to see Havdalah in a second, how to do Havdalah. Yeah, so 8:25 on Saturday. Or hold on, I messed up. Sorry, guys. I was looking at this week. I'm supposed to look at next week. So 8:21 is sunset on the 8:21. So we'll say 8:19. So 8:19 is probably the cutoff. So I would say stop eating at 8:19. If you want to still, say words of Torah and sing, that's permissible. And then you do Birkat Hamazon, and then we'll see what the procedure is for Arvit and the nighttime prayers. So, any questions on that? Okay. So, like we said, the fast begins on sunset the day before, just like Yom Kippur. So we want to add a little bit though. So we said 8:19. That's around when the fast starts. I wonder if that's what Daniel. Do you know if that's what they said? Daniel, do you know if that's what they posted? What the time? Okay. And in a normal year, let's say you did the end of the meal. Let's say you did it a little earlier. Let's say you did it at 6, right? And you want to eat after the final meal. You're allowed to. One may continue to eat. Even if someone decides to begin the fast, it is not binding unless he declared it verbally. Of course, on Shabbat, it's different because you can't fast on Shabbat. Yeah. So you can't bring yourself the fast earlier than necessary. So in a year like this, even if you would want to start the fast a little earlier, you can't. So then we move into the actual fast. So on the actual fast, we said that you can't eat, you can't drink. We have to make ourselves mourn over the destruction of the temple. If someone forgot it was Tisha B'Av and he ate, as long as he ate less than I think they say it's less than a kazait. It's there's a machloket if it's a kotevet or a kazait, but you should make sure he eats less than, I think it's 20 grams, 18 grams. If he eats less than 18 grams, then it's as if he did nothing. But if he ate more than that, then technically he broke the fast, and he wouldn't be able to say any of the additional prayers that we add to the Amidah, and as we'll see later on. Let's say someone accidentally recited a blessing over the food. He forgot it was Tisha B'Av and he accidentally blessed over the food. He should taste a little bit, and then so he doesn't have the blessing in vain, because the blessing in vain would be something from the Torah, and this fast is technically only from the sages. You're not allowed to really rinse your mouth in the morning or brush your teeth. But if someone feels extreme discomfort from not rinsing or brushing their teeth, They should lean their face forward and brush their teeth so nothing can fall to the back of their throat, and try to make sure everything comes out. Technically, if someone smokes cigarettes and he needs the cigarettes, he can, but he should try not to do that, of course, anywhere near shul, especially not during the readings of any of the Megillot that we're going to read that day. So
The fast start 8:21 and end 9:05.
Okay. So yeah, like we said, we make it like a 1 or 2 minutes early. Make sure to stop eating 1 or 2 minutes early. So 8:19 to stop eating until 9:05 the next night. So everyone who's healthy should fast. This year, because it's pushed off, there are certain leniencies. So if someone is pregnant or nursing, they can be lenient this year. They don't have to fast. Also, someone who's sick, right? They're also not obligated to fast. Also, someone who just gave birth, the first 30 days within birth, they do not have to fast. Children under the ages of 12 and 13 don't have to fast, but you would want to start teaching them after around 11 and onward. It's a good time to start teaching. That's what the Gemara says. So from 11, they should. You can tell them, fast as much as you can. And if someone needs to eat as much as they want, but try to not eat tasty foods. Don't start eating, like we said, pizza and chocolate cake. Eat what you need. Don't eat what you want. B'ezrat Hashem, all of us will be able to do the fast, and we don't need to take any of these leniencies. Again, so no bathing on Tisha B'Av. You can't take a shower. So this year, even though we said a bunch of leniencies, this is one of those things that kind of sucks, because you can't shower on Shabbat, and you can't shower after Shabbat because it's Tisha B'Av. So the last shower you'll be taking probably is before Shabbat. So we said a bunch of leniencies. Now this is the one thing that's going to be a little strict. So it's going to be.
Can you put cologne?
So cologne you can put after Shabbat. Well, even on Shabbat you can put cologne. You just have to make sure it's on your skin and not on the clothes. After Shabbat, yeah, you can put. And it's actually recommended that you put deodorant and cologne on so that you don't come to shul. Yeah, the Gemara says that people who used to work as tanners, people that would do a lot with the leather, and butchers, and they would be very smelly. They were exempt from going to the temple during the three festivals, because it would have been a discomfort for the people near them to smell them. So they were exempt from going to Jerusalem at those times. So no bathing. You can't even dip one finger into hot water. It's very strict. It is forbidden to use moist towelettes also. So let's say you want to use what do you call them? Baby wipes, right? That would be forbidden also. So the question is, how do you wash your hands in the morning then, or when you use the bathroom, right? So you're allowed to use to wash your hands in the morning, but normally we wash from the wrist down. During Tisha B'Av, you want to do from the knuckles down. So only after your knuckles should get wet. And that's the same thing with going to the bathroom, and also with waking up in the morning. So from the knuckles downward, and then after you go to the bathroom, you can use soap, of course. Yeah. If someone is very sensitive and they need to wash, they can't go a function without washing their face, then they can wash their face on Tisha B'Av. Like we said, deodorant and cologne is permissible. like I said, it's actually what do you call it? Recommended, especially on a 2-day no shower spree like we have this year. You can't rub oils on the skin. Same thing with skin creams. So if someone cannot. So if someone uses these creams, these creams, because they get pleasure from it or because they like it, smells good. Even if it smells good and they want to make themselves well, no, you cannot use these creams. But if someone suffers from chapped skin or very dry skin, then they can put the cream on to make their skin moist, so it's not very chapped.
What about oils?
No, all of that, no. No oils. So no coconut oil, like you said, no any other oils that you want to put on your skin. Another one of the prohibitions on Tisha B'Av is you're not allowed to wear leather. So if you have a belt that is leather or a watch that the wrist strap is leather, specifically shoes, usually shoes are the most leather thing that we usually wear. Those would be prohibited to wear on Tisha B'Av. And so you're going to have to take your shoes off before sunset when the fast begins. And we're going to see specifically on Shabbat, it's a little different because you're kind of in this middle ground. You're at Shabbat, but it's also the fast. How do we act? But on a normal year, you would take your leather shoes, all your leather off before sunset, and you go to shul with your non-leather shoes. In the morning, there's no difference to the blessings. So we still say Sha'asali Kol Sarki. There's no difference with that. You'll see some Sidurim though say to say something else, or they say that you should omit this blessing. But we usually the Sephardim we say it.
The blessing about you give me everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a big machloket on that, but the custom amongst many leading rabbis today is to recite the blessing even on Yom Kippur and even on Tisha B'Av.
Yeah, because the Sidura used to say don't say.
Not to say it? Okay, so say it. Okay, I'm telling you to say it. Okay, so we say Shasali Kol Tzalki even on Tisha B'Av and even on Yom Kippur. Rav Ovadia Yosef, he said it was his personal custom to recite this blessing in full, even on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. So that's him. If he did it, then I think we can rely on that. Daniel, how do you translate to English? That you gave me everything. Shasa li kol tzarki. You gave me all of my needs. You provided me with all of my needs. So, we say. That's what some Sidurim might say not to say it. I think if you look in maybe that one is that they say maybe is that a Sidur? Yeah, I don't know if that's it might say over there not to say it. But Sephardim, we go by the Rav Ovadia. Rav Ovadia said he holds by it.
Yeah, even the Kol Sazon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, says not to say it.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I always say, even on Yom Kippur and even on Tisha B'Av, I make sure I say that.
But you always say.
Yeah. So you say all the blessings like you would usually do on a normal day. There's no difference. Even though some Sidurim might say otherwise, we still hold by that. Yeah, in the morning brachot. Sorry, I wasn't being Sorry, I wasn't being specific. In the morning brachot, after you wash your hands in the morning and after you go to the bathroom, we say all the Birkot HaShachar, all the morning blessings. I think there's like 11 blessings that we say. And one of them is that he provided me with all my needs. And some say not to say that on Tisha B'Av. You'll see some Sidurim say not to say that. And so Sephardim hold that we still say it. Okay. Children that are younger than the age of bar mitzvah may wear leather shoes, but it's best to train them not to wear it. So if they don't really have anything else, then they can wear it, but better to buy them specific shoes so they can learn. Of course, all of these restrictions go for the full day of Tisha B'Av from the night before until the night at 9:05, we said. So you can't shower or anything until 9:05 the next day. Marital relations you cannot have on Tisha B'Av. So this is this year, since Tisha B'Av is on Friday, technically on Shabbat, Sephardim were lenient, and we say that they're allowed to have relations on Shabbat if it's Tisha B'Av like it is this year, but the day after, which would be the 10th of Av, but that's our Tisha B'Av, that's when we fast, that would be prohibited. So, and normally on the night of Tisha B'Av, it would be prohibited, except this year, since it's Shabbat, Sephardim are lenient. Ashkenazim still say that they separate and they don't have relations. They on Tisha B'Av, a married couple should not even sleep in the same bed. They should act as if they are nidah, but they don't have to act like they're nidah with regard to other laws. Like they don't have to. They can hand things to each other, and technically they can touch. It's just they should separate and sleep in different beds because sleeping in the same bed might lead to things. So on Tisha B'Av, you can't, like I said, you can't just take a book and start learning. There's only certain things you can learn. Technically, we say, why can't we learn? Because learning is one of the greatest happinesses that we get. When we learn, we're very happy. And so if we were allowed to study whatever we're allowed, then it would beat the point of Tisha B'Av, which is a day of mourning. We'd be happy because we're learning the Torah. So they bring certain books that we're allowed to read. Iyov, Job, I think in English. You're allowed to read Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah. You're allowed to read it because it describes the destruction of Jerusalem and Israel. Kings, no. So only those two books. Only Job, Iyov, and Jeremiah. Okay? And the Megillot, you can read Eicha, which is Lamentations, I think. And then you can also read the Midrash on Eicha, because that describes the destruction of Jerusalem. You can read some of the stories on the destruction, specifically if you look in the Talmud, in Masechet Gittin, in the tractate of Gittin. Gittin, yeah. It's page 55b, and I think it goes for until 57, 58. Over there, I would very highly recommend those pages. It talks about the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, the second temple. It also talks about the destruction of these two big cities also in Israel. One was called Bitar, and one was called it's called the King's Mountain. And over there, I highly recommend it. It's very interesting stories. You can also read and
What was the chapter?
Gittin, page 55b, and on. I think it's for the next until 58, 59. I would highly recommend it. If you can, I think it's on Safaria. But it's very interesting. If you can, if they have the Ein Yaakov on that in English, I would also recommend that. I know they have the Ein Yaakov in English, it's like a thick textbook kind of thing. But I don't know if it's on Safari in English. Ein Yaakov is basically he takes all the stories in the Talmud and he puts it into like one book. So yeah, Ein Yaakov on Gittin would also. Also Moed Katan, Ein Yaakov. Yeah. So if Ein Yaakov also on Gitin, he basically just takes out all the other parts and leaves the story. So it's the same thing. Also Moed Katan. There's I think the whole second or third chapter is on the Laws of Mourning. So you can read all of those. You can learn all of those halachot. It starts from on Moed Katan. It starts from 21a. I think it goes till 29. Might go until the end of the book, actually, end of the tractate. And of course, you can learn halachot on mourning, halachot of Tisha B'Av, and yeah. So that means you can read Tehillim, you can't read Psalms, you can't read the Torah portion, you can't read any Mishnah, Talmud otherwise that we didn't specify, any other Navi, so no kings, no Samuel, all of that would be forbidden on this day.
Is that even if you're accustomed to reading from the Psalms?
Yeah. Yeah, even if you're accustomed, for example, I read a couple chapters every day. I'm forbidden to read it on Tisha B'Av. So even the ones that we just said, those are permissible, but you can't delve in depth in them. So you can't start pulling different books and try to understand the meaning behind it more. If it's because once you start getting more in depth into it, then you're going to start enjoying it a little bit more. You can read any of the kinot, they're the kind of the sad songs that we read at the end of the prayer. That's allowed. Again, this is for men and women alike. What we can say are the Torah passages that are in the prayers. So in the prayers, Ashrei, which is part of Psalms, or any of these other things, that during prayer, that's permissible. But of course, after that, it would be not permissible. If someone has the custom to do the Daf Yomi or the Chok Yisrael, he does that every day and he doesn't miss a day. On this day, he can't. So even though, like you said, even though someone's very Tamid, he's always doing it every day, on this day, we tell him he cannot. They bring another couple of books recommendations. They say that Musar books, those you're allowed to read them. Musar is kind of shaping your character. They teach you how to behave. And so they say one of the prime examples to read is the Pele Yoetz. It's just a book, a kind of Pele Yoetz. It kind of goes, it's a book that it goes from Aleph to Taf, and it gives you a bunch of different topics, kind of alphabetic order. And over there you can read the different things on each one. So I guess, yeah. I highly recommend that also. Just if you go on YouTube and you type in, I think, the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, you'll be able to find it. Those are also, and those really, you can read as much as you can, but when you see the images they show, and even though it's animation, you start feeling a little bit more of the loss. You want to make sure that even though that we said Musar is permissible, you don't want any of them that have too much agadata, too much stories in them. You want to get some more of the ones that kind of just tell you this is what you do, this is what you can't do. So Pele Yoetz, Mesilat Yesharim is also a great one. Like we said, Tehillim, no. If someone is not going to do anything else, let's say if he only knows how to read Tehillim and that's it, then you can be lenient about it. He cannot be lenient about it. So even if he's not going to do anything else, and he might just, and even if he doesn't understand what he's reading, he can't read Tehillim. He should rather read some of those subjects that we were talking about earlier, Jeremiah, Eov, or something else, or watch a video on YouTube. They usually have in the shul, in the Beit Knesset, in the synagogue, they sometimes show videos on the Holocaust or on the pogroms, things that inspire that kind of sadness. But things like other videos or other radio or a newspaper, you should refrain from reading and listening to that stuff, because that might make you a little happier. And even if someone doesn't understand, let's say someone reads the Zohar and he doesn't understand anything he's reading, even that would be prohibited. So usually it's forbidden. It's really based on the location. So if the location, they work on Tisha B'Av, then they can work on Tisha B'Av. And if not, they don't. Usually the custom nowadays is we don't work on Tisha B'Av, especially since it's a Sunday. No one really works on Sunday. So we should refrain from working on Tisha B'Av. I know, Daniel, you probably work on Sunday, but...
No, but even we want to open at 1:30.
Oh, okay. So after midday. So that's the... So if someone... So that it's prohibited to work only if you're not going to have a big loss. So if it's a big loss to your livelihood and you're going to lose, let's say, a big deal, or it's going to be something that you can lose a lot of money, then you're allowed to work. For, let's say, a woman wants to make the break fast, right? Whatever she's gonna make for the night, she should only start making that after midday. So after 1:30, she can start making the food. But before that, she should try not to. When you see people at shul, you shouldn't say, Shalom Aleichem. You shouldn't say good morning. Those are things that we want to stay away from, because technically it's not a good morning, right? It's a day of sadness, and we want to try also, good night, Laila Tov, Boker Tov. Try to stay away from. So it doesn't really give you an appropriate blessing, like saying, but you can go, how are you feeling? How are you? But you can't really say good morning or that. Also strolling. Let's say you want to go for a walk or get some fresh air. That's prohibited. So if someone wants to go for a walk on Tisha B'Av, better not to. Also playing with infants, playing with babies, that's prohibited. Only, I guess, the exception is if they're crying and they need you. But otherwise, you should try staying away from playing with babies, because when you play with babies, you get happy. So when the fast of now is, a lot of it is going to be applicable to us, because now is all when Shabbat is Tisha B'Av, so the fast is pushed off. So when the 9th of Av, when Tisha B'Av begins after Shabbat, it is forbidden to prepare the synagogue during Shabbat. So you can't. You'll see sometimes they change the chairs to like little chairs, because you can't sit on the regular chairs. All of that cannot be done on Shabbat. It has to only be done after Shabbat, because then you would be preparing for the weekday on Shabbat, which is prohibited. So after 20 minutes after sunset, which is the time we know that is after Shabbat, it's permitted. So on Saturday night, like we said, when do you take off your leather shoes, right? So it is not necessary to take off the leather shoes until the cantor reaches the words of Baruch Hu in the Arvit. Nowadays, we don't really come and we change our shoes. And I think also, I'm not sure what time Arvit is, but sometimes they give you a little buffer, so you're at home anyway, and you drive back. So basically, when it comes down to it, you should take your shoes off when it's the end of Shabbat. So 20 minutes after sunset, when Shabbat ends, you take off your leather shoes, and you have to put on the non-leather shoes. So Havdalah, So we add the blessing of Atachon Antanu to the Amidah in the in the fourth blessing for Havdalah, but we do not recite Havdalah over a cup of wine because we can't drink from it. But we do recite over the fragrances, and since it is pleasurable, we do not recite over the fragrances because it is pleasurable to smell. And indeed, it's forbidden to smell things on Shabbat, Tisha B'Av, because it makes us feel better. But it is necessary to bless over the candle Borei Mereh Esh. Okay, so we don't do it on the wine, and we don't do it on the besamim. We don't do it on the spices, but we do it on the candle. So in most synagogues, the cantor should recite out the blessing, Borei Mereh Esh, and the whole synagogue will answer Amen, and they will be Yotzi. They'll be they fulfill their obligation, and they should do this right before they start reading the book of Eicha. And for women who are at home, they should do that for themselves then. And also, if they don't do the Amidah, make sure you say Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh Lechol before lighting the candle. So on Sunday night after Tisha B'Av, so after the fast, everyone must recite or listen to Havdalah over a cup. So we didn't do it on Saturday night over wine, but we have to we push that off to Sunday. So even though we're still doing work and we're using electricity and everything, we still have to do Havdalah over a cup of wine on Sunday night. This is the established custom, is to recite the two blessings of Borei Pri HaGefen and Hamavdil ben Kodesh Lechol, and you skip all the rest. So you don't do the blessing over the spices and no Borei Mereh Esh because you did that the night before. So the only thing you do is these two blessings. Does that make sense? Okay. So Saturday night you would only do Borei Mereh Esh, and you do the if you didn't say it in the Amidah, you have to say Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh Lechol. That way you can use electricity and drive a car and everything. And then Sunday night you would do regular Havdalah. You would just take out the blessing over the besamim, over the spices, and over the candle. But you would do it do the blessing on Sunday night on the Hagefen and Hamavdil ben Kodesh Lechol. Okay. Sorry. So on Sunday night you wouldn't say any of the verses before. Usually on Havdalah there's verses before. There's you say Ana Shem Oshi Ana. So we skip all that. We just say Borei Pri HaGefen, and we say Baruch Atah Hashem Hamavdil ben Kodesh Lechol. That's it. Like we said, if a woman doesn't go to synagogue, she should say Borei Mereh Esh at home. Also, if someone's ill and they can't make it to synagogue, they should do that. And let's say if a woman is planning to eat on Tisha B'Av, or someone sick is planning to eat on Tisha B'Av, they should make sure that they do Havdalah normally. So if a woman is going to, she has to do the full Havdalah, and she has to drink from the wine. Otherwise, she cannot eat or drink until she does that. Okay. Okay. If children, same thing. If children want to, if a child after he reaches 7, 8, and he's not fasting, he would also have to do Havdalah over wine in order to eat. Okay. So on Tisha B'Av night, and until midday on Sunday, I guess this year, we don't sit on chairs. We sit on the floor, or we get really small chairs, and we try to sit on. They usually a small chair over there. I think they have it inside, but they have these like little tiny chairs. We try to sit close to the ground. and they usually change the curtain on the front of the ark. They take it down, and they try to make it a time of mourning. The prayers on the night and during the day are longer. They're stretched out, and at night we usually dim the lights in the synagogue again to get this feeling. You should try sleeping in a less comfortable position. I guess in a less comfortable manner. So if someone usually sleeps with 2 pillows, try to sleep with the 1 pillow. If you usually sleep with 1 pillow, maybe try sleeping with no pillows. Some people have the custom to sleep on the floor. Again, just to to afflict oneself, to make them feel the tsar, the sadness. Yeah, try not to be comfortable that night. But again, it's comfortable is very subjective, right? So that's why it says if you're usually sleeping with 2 pillows, you by reducing that by 1, that's for you is already is uncomfortable.
It's right to sleep in the bed. It's right to sleep in the bed, or we need to sleep in the floor.
Yeah, no. You can. Some people have the custom to sleep on the floor, but that's not the halacha. The halacha, you don't have to sleep on the floor. You just have to sleep in a less comfortable manner. But if someone can't sleep, if he, let's say you try sleeping on the floor and then you're tossing and turning, and all the night you can't fall asleep, then you come to shul and you're sleepy, then what have you accomplished? Because the more important is to be sad and to pray to Hashem with a broken heart. That's more important than a broken back. So that's my recommendation. I think that's usually like we said, you have to make sure that you wash the hands until the knuckles. Morning blessings, as we said. The custom is not to wear talit and tefillin in shul in the morning. What the Sephardis do is we make sure that we put the talit and tefillin on at home. We say the Shema, and then we come and we don't worry about that. Then nowadays, most synagogues they don't wear talit and tefillin. If the custom though is to do that, then you come. You can put it on with them. But usually we only put talit and tefillin on during mincha on Tisha B'Av, which is after half day.
So question over there.
Yeah.
So in the morning, with the feeling, you say the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And you also say the blessing or not?
So that's a great question. Hold on. I will get back to you on that one. I do not remember. I asked my dad that question last year also. I don't remember. I thought they have it here, but I do not. Yeah, I don't remember. They don't have any footnotes here. No. Okay, I'll get back to you on that one, Daniel. Next week I'll bring an answer. Yeah. Again, one of the reasons why we don't wear the talit on in the morning is because we sit on the floor and it's not, respectful to wear your talit and tefillin while you're sitting on the floor. Okay. Like we said, it's interesting. Although on the day itself, we said it's a sad day and everything, we don't do tachanun and we don't or slichot. So we don't do any of the how do you pronounce tachanun? How do you say tachanun? Repentances. Yeah, there's a word for it. I'm forgetting it now.
It's after the.
Yeah, it's after the Amidah, after the 18th blessing, the silent Amidah. Yeah, after that. We don't do that on Tisha B'Av. So even though it's a day of mourning and it's a day of sadness, we don't do Tachanun because we say at the it says that this day is going to transform into a holiday. So at the end of times, and actually they say Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. So it's actually it transforms into a holiday. That's why they say whoever mourns over the Beit HaMikdash will merit to see and join in the happiness of the building of the Beit HaMikdash. Okay. And I think that is. So after half day, you can start sitting in chairs again. You can start. You don't have to sit on the ground. And usually the Kohanim bless on mincha on Tisha B'Av. I guess one of the most important things is not to forget to give charity, to give tzedakah on Tisha B'Av or before Tisha B'Av, because the Gemara in Masechet Brachot says that the reward of a fast day is measured on how much charity you gave. So even though you fasted, you could have fasted the whole time, you had the best fast, you prayed with a lot of kavanah. If you didn't give charity, then it doesn't only have to be money. Maybe you did charity by helping someone out, or you visited someone who was sick. Those are acts of kindness, acts of charity, and that's more important. And that's the real measure on these days. I guess the last thing we say before, actually, we'll do that. From half day onward, you're allowed to clean the house, but usually before that, you don't want to do. And then after Tisha B'Av, we eat, right? You're allowed to eat and drink. Usually we do the blessing of the moon after. So on Sunday night, probably before we eat, over here, we're going to do the blessing on the moon. It is best to refrain from meat and wine the night of and the 10th of Av, which this year is going to be Sunday anyway, because they say that the 10th of Av, there was still the fires were still burning in the Beit HaMikdash, and so we try to. All of our joy comes back on the 11th.
It's
Meat and wine. So you want to refrain from meat and wine on the 10th of Av. But everything else is in a normal year when the 10th of Av isn't the fast. It would be permissible to bathe, get one haircut, do laundry, all of that fun stuff. But since this year the 10th of Av is the fast, none of this really applies to us. Yeah, and then after, it just says the last halacha is that Hashem is going to change all these 4 fasts that we have: Tisha B'Av, the Yud Zayin, the Tzom of Gedalia, and Asara B'Tevet. He's going to transform all of these days of sadness into days of happiness. And they say actually that these 21 days, these 3 weeks, it's going to be one long holiday. You're going to have, like Passover, you have the beginning and the end, and you have the middle is usually Chol HaMoed. They said the same thing with the Yud Zayin B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av. Those are going to be holidays, and everything in the middle is going to be a Chol HaMoed when Mashiach comes. After that we have 7 weeks of Nachama. We have 7 weeks of consolation, Haftorah, and that brings us into Elul and into Rosh Hashanah. So this is all just preparation. Z'rat Hashem, none of these halachot will be applicable because Mashiach will come and we can celebrate. And Z'rat Hashem. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So from now till Sunday, we can wear new clothes, but after that we can. Right?
Correct. So yeah, now until Sunday, we're still in that 3-week period. Technically, Shabbat you can wear because it's Shabbat, as long as for Kavod Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh also. So until Sunday, you cannot. No, during the 3 weeks you cannot recite Shechianu. So I take that back. Actually, you cannot wear new clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I got myself mixed up.
So
Yeah.
whenever we get something new, we just put it up and wear it after 3 weeks.
Yeah, technically you can't really buy new clothes also. So you want to try to refrain from buying new clothes during the 3 weeks. Yeah, we talked about that last week. I think if you want to look at the video on YouTube, we talked about that. But yeah, during the 3 weeks, we do not say shechianu, so you can't buy new clothes or any of that fun stuff. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you.